Welcome back to our podcast following the creation of the shows for Festival of Short Plays 50/50 in 2020. Today we will be following the making and challenges of the first play in our festival, In the Beginning by Rebecca Ritchie. In the Beginning follows Eve and Rachel as Rachel films a documentary to honor Eve's husband, Adam. But when Lilith shows up, everything may change for Eve and her idyllic vision of Adam. Here are some notes on the historic context of this play. Adam and Eve, as many of you may know, were the first humans God created according to the Christian Bible. Adam was fashioned from dust in God's image by God and placed in the Garden of Eden. God then created Eve from Adam's rib bone to be his companion. The unfamiliar part of this play, though, may be the addition of Lilith as a character. Lilith is traditionally a Jewish Torah figure. Lilith appears in the Torah as Adam's first wife, created from the same clay that Adam was forged from. Lilith later becomes a demon and is referred to as kidnapper, murderer of children, and seducer of men. Lilith is never explicitly mentioned in the Christian Bible, but some speculate that she may be alluded to. In the AMP, the Amplified Bible translation, she is explicitly mentioned. The creatures of the desert will encounter jackals, and the hairy goat will call to its kind. Indeed, Lilith will settle there and find herself a place to rest. Isaiah 31:13. The translation of the word Lilith in Hebrew means night demons. So was the use of the word Lilith intentional or simply a modified version of Lilith? Since you've heard a little background about the play, we will be moving on to a short question and answer with the designers. We have Stacy Olson, who is the set designer, Cassie Sand, who is the costume designer, and Katrina Seek, who is the lighting designer. I'm going to start with a question for Stacy. So this is a question from our professor, Mimi Kammer. So she asks, for Rise and In the Beginning, both of these plays take place outdoors, but as you mentioned, San Francisco and Iran are very different places. How have you planned to reconcile this?
Yeah, they're definitely very different, and I found that in my research images as well. Coming up with a landscape that would fit both was definitely tricky, but what I came up with was really focusing on making sure there's like rolling hills as well as water, so that maybe with some like differences in lighting that could help change the atmosphere. In addition, I was going to make some different set dressings. So for In the Beginning, I would have had rocks on set that were more red, and the soil there is full of iron, and that like helps make them red. So I would have like red rocks to help solidify the place, and then Rise would have different set dressings to help separate them.
Thank you. So for Cassie, I have a question. So the play does not explicitly give a time period for this show. Besides there being cameras and modern day equipment mentioned in the play, was there any specific reason why you chose modern costumes for this show? Would Eve have gone with the fashion of the times as she had gotten older?
So I chose modern costumes for the show because in Dallas's director's statement, he placed the play in modern day Middle East. And I think it worked well for the play because it relates Eve's struggles with Adam to struggles that women in relationships with men in modern day have. And I think that Eve would have slowly trailed behind the fashion times because she kind of follows society and like what society wants her to wear. And I imagine that the director in the play like gave her the green dress to wear for the film, and then the red scarf that she has over is something special that she received from Adam. And I do think that Lilith would have definitely gone with the fashion of the times as she got older because she's like the embodiment of like women empowerment. And like I would argue that women today are probably the most empowered that they've ever been.
Thank you. So Katrina, this is a question from Rick Getz. He asks, how do you see the green lights working with skin tones for In the Beginning?
Yeah, so I think if with enough research, then we could have picked a good green that didn't make people look washed out or ugly or weird. And I think the green with the combination of the gobos and the other colors, the outdoor colors, would make it so that the green mostly shows up on the floor and their skin tones look normal.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Before we hear the reading from the play, we're going to quickly chat with our director, Dallas Williams. Hi, Dallas.
Hey, Zoe.
So, Lilith is considered a demon in the Jewish tradition, but the text in the play seems more guiding and helpful. How are you going to balance the traditional connotation of Lilith and what the play makes her out to be?
I think that's really interesting because I think Lilith in the play can be interpreted two ways. She can solely be focused on helping Eve discover that Adam wasn't all he was cracked up to be, which would be incredibly helpful and eye-opening to Eve. Or she could simply be trying to sabotage the film about Adam due to her animosity towards him and hurting Eve's view of her late husband in the process. There could certainly be arguments to both sides. After all, Lilith argues with Eve constantly that she isn't doing this out of hate for Adam, and she seems very concerned about Eve's health and is interested in her story. However, I think the biggest question on my mind the whole time was, why was Lilith at the location they were filming at? Could it be she heard about the film and showed up to enact some plan, or was it a coincidence? There are also a few lines she states that could be interpreted as guiding her own self-interest. For example, she says, "I had a part, no one will ever know that unless you tell them." I like to interpret Lilith as a mixture of these two arguments. I believe that she wants to give credit to Eve, who deserves some for all of the hard work she's done throughout her life, but I think she also wants her story and her part broadcasted to the wider world who most likely have no idea she exists. It makes her more interesting as a character that does good but has flaws. This makes her more relatable and makes her more engaging, and makes her story seem more realistic. Similarly, I think Eve's desire for recognition and her hesitation to think about her husband as less than she's been told all her life creates another interesting dynamic. These characters are constantly at war within themselves, which really creates the conflict of the show.
Now we will have a reading from In the Beginning, directed by Dallas Williams. Eve will be played by Sabrina Folhart, Lilith will be played by Molly Hinkle, and Rachel will be played by Marissa Dorr.
So you just walked out of Eden?
Best career choice I ever made.
What did the boss do?
What could he do? He made me an honest offer. Couldn't very well complain when I went. But he says to me, "I won't make that mistake again. This is the last time I ever ask a woman to speak her mind."
I think I just got a heart palpitation.
You okay?
Give me a minute. I get upset, my mitral valve acts up.
Wanna lie down?
Lie down? I'd like to kill somebody. You sure about all this?
I'm old. I'm not senile.
He didn't have to make me from the man's rib.
He had plenty of stuff he could have used. Rusty wire, an old broomstick.
Did Adam risk anything when he gave up that rib?
What risk? Look who did the surgery.
Ugh!
You okay? You got a headache?
I got a hole in the head, that's what I got. I spent half my life apologizing to that man. Every time the faucet leaked or the Gribboniz gave somebody heartburn, it was my fault. And now you tell me if I'd been made from clay, everything would have been different?
I didn't say that.
Oh, yes, you did.
It was different for me, that's all I said. Maybe it was the rib, maybe it wasn't.
Without that rib, we would have been equals, partners. I would have had a vote.
If you'd wanted it.
I wanted it.
Maybe. If you took a stand.
I would have.
Then do it now. Tell the director how it really was. Put the record straight.
It's too late. She started filming and she's got footage.
She'll do it over.
She can't do it over. This is the movie business. It costs too much.
The truth always costs.
Don't you understand? They won't make this movie if I tell them the truth. You think they'd make him a hero if they knew about the rib? You think they'd put up a monument to him, make a film about him if they knew how he treated me?
So they don't make a film. They don't put up a monument. You really care?
Sure I care. It's a film. About me.
About him.
Close enough.
You let Rachel make this film, people will believe he did it all. Your husband. You had no part in it.
I had a part.
Then tell her.
She won't change anything now. She's over budget.
Then what was all that talk about the snake? Your honest friend you miss so much? You know why you never made a friend like him again? You're afraid of the truth. You lost the knack of it.
I have a role in this film. It's the role they want me to play.
You'll leave it at that?
What can I do now?
Tell the director how it was. You won't get a chance like this again. What you say now, that's what people will remember. They'll say, look at her. That woman knows what she's talking about.
I can't. I'm not used to thinking about my husband like that. I'm confused. I need a chance to think.
What's to think? Just tell your life on the film. This is what happened.
You still hate him?
I don't hate him. I don't feel anything for him. I just lived my life different.
Different.
Look, I think fair is fair and give credit where it's due. You had a part. He made you think you didn't. I had a part. Nobody will ever know that. Unless you tell them you got the chance, nobody else.
I'm too old to take chances.
Fine. Good. You're content. You'll be remembered for all of history as a woman who did absolutely nothing in her life. Except eat one apple too many.
We're finally ready. How are you two feeling? Feeling fine? Great. Now, Eve, we're just going to have you talk a little to see how the sound's working. Look over there at that camera. Right there. See? The cameraman's on the crane on the bluff. Not nervous, are ya? No? You're a trooper.
You can still tell her.
Just talk. Say anything. A little history, a little nostalgia.
To say it in public? I can't.
Sure you can. Talk about your husband.
Tell her about your husband. The tower of strength.
How he organized the housing, set up communication lines.
To say this in front of people?
Or talk about the snake.
The snake.
An old friend.
Mrs. Adamovich, Eve, I know that the heat's bad up here, but let's just get focused. Let's concentrate. Think about your husband, the patriarchal government, the foundation of monotheism.
To be a movie star at my age, is that so much to ask?
You want applause? You got applause. You want the truth? You've got to take a stand.
Eve.
What do I do?
What you do is start speaking. Now, I've got a crew standing around and the clock is running. We've got to move.
I still got an apple left if anyone wants a bite of it.
Rachel, Miss Director, it's like this. In the beginning there was the heaven and the earth. And the earth was unformed and void, and darkness lay upon the face of the deep. And we all know this. This isn't new, it's just... When I told you that on the film, the part you shot before, it isn't the whole story. You see, after the beginning, in the garden, things got a little complicated.
Thank you for watching the episode following the play In the Beginning by Rebecca Ritchie. Stay tuned later today to catch episodes on the other 4 plays, The Hour, Rise, Super Hot Raven and Raven 2, The Ravening, and Well Done Poets. We hope you've enjoyed yourself, and thank you for your support during this difficult time.